dark. I can't see me. Oh man, are we live? Are we live here? Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Bakar Obey, aka Coach Bobay World, MC Mastermind Coach of the S.E.A.R Mastermind Group, along with my co-host tonight, who's joining us on our podcast, Our Story, Our Journey, Our Way. Let's bring him to the show. Mr. Maurice, the helpful trucker, Bay, our brother-in-law.
How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm outstanding. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you good.
I like your lighting. I want your lighting.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. And
you got it.
The financial conductor herself, my sister extraordinaire, Majida Bay. I'd like to start, just give her a shout out for joining my team, for guest speaking. A lot of people definitely made a connection, I believe, with you. They enjoy hearing your story, saw a little bit of themselves in it. And man, we're getting them on track financially. I like that. Get on track.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Shout out to my accountability group in the morning. Miss one of my accountability members. She always says "choo choo," right? Like I wait for it in my introduction. Choo choo. So yeah, but I'm feeling good. How's your self-esteem? Yes,
actually, I was about to lead in with a question about that. As the financial conductor, how has that changed your identity?
Yo, it's crazy. You know, when people say words, right? Like what you speak out, you bring about, right? I don't know if that's exactly how they say it, but ever since I started calling myself that, like I've embraced becoming that. Like I said it before, like that identity. Yeah.
Hey. I love it. Oh, she's too cute. She knows what she's doing now.
Yeah, she's starting to talk a lot more now, so she want to be heard.
Yeah.
She thought she was being heard before. She's like, look, y'all can understand me now. I'm using words, my
love
tone.
Oh, you just goofy too. All right, Nzinga. All right. Oh, she was talking. I was gonna talk to her, but now I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of what Majida had to say there.
Oh yeah.
That's okay. That's who we are.
No, I was just saying that, like, ever since I started embracing being a financial conductor and helping people get on the right track, and like I see myself becoming that. You know, like I feel aligned with that. Whereas before, like I wouldn't say it because I didn't believe that. You know what I mean? Like I didn't believe that I could become that. And because I was in a dual career, right? Like I was a construction manager, and I was doing, being a financial professional on the side. But when I started taking myself more seriously in that arena, that identity really helped me to see myself becoming that, and transitioning into that on a more at a higher level. Not just seeing myself as somebody that can assist people or do something on the side, right? Like it ain't a side hustle, but it's really not just a career, but really a calling. If that makes sense, like I could see
not
that
just
being
a job; it's an adventure.
No. I mean, seriously, it's really a calling. Like this is what I'm purposed to do. Because I call myself that, right? Like if you think about it on a job, like they give you a job title, but I chose this profession, and then I chose that identity. Like I got to speak or say for myself who I am. And something Rochelle T. Park said, she said, and she said this kind of like off the cuff, but she said, before they said I said I am. You're muted, Bakar. We can't hear you. Yeah,
sorry,
I'm talking
to my group.
Oh, yeah, before they said I said I am. And so it's powerful, whatever you say after I am. And so, yeah, I've learned to embrace that over the past year. and it's exciting. Thank you.
Two most powerful words in the English language, and I truly believe that. I truly believe
Yes,
that.
sir.
And that worked both ways. I am not. That worked both ways. It definitely does.
For sure.
Those I see those as declarations. I see those as the equivalent of a declaration. You know what I mean? Like you declare what you are, you could declare what you're not as well. And when I say what you're not, I mean like you can use that power in reverse. You know what I mean? You can like be so because you know you listen to a person sometimes when they stuck in their moments, right? And it's like, I am not this, I am not that, and they get emotional behind what they are not. You know what I mean? And it's interesting. Like you said, those words are powerful. Whatever you put behind them tends to become. I believe
And it's
that.
crazy what you said about emotion. When you tie emotion to the words, it just takes it to a whole
Mm-hmm.
different level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes we're detached from the emotion or we separate the emotion from it. And the emotion really is what brings it to life.
Makes
You know,
sense.
they say emotion creates motion.
Emotion. Yeah.
Emotion
Oh,
creates motion.
something like that.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
it's good stuff.
I got
So what
to
about you?
say it
Helpful
again.
trucker? Yeah, I don't know what's going on with our MC.
I got, well, everything's
Give me
pretty
some
much,
lead time.
everything's cool with me. But I got an interesting article because I ain't, whatever. Small fries, small potatoes. What I got going on, right?
You're what? See, you
You
just
ain't
spoke about
lying about that. I just said that. I am messed. I just threw myself under a bus. Thank you for catching that. Thank you for
these
catching that.
words, man. These words.
Yeah. They are powerful. I got an interesting article, but we don't have to get into it yet. But I did want to get into it before we get into the discussion. But I got an interesting article. It's totally off the subject, but it's interesting though. It's really, really
What's that?
interesting. It's interesting. I'm gonna pull it up. Okay. How do here? Yeah. Let me share my screen real quick. Share screen. And okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep it going.
Okay.
Having some
I'm
technical
good.
difficulties over here.
I believe I'm sharing now. Yeah, I believe I'm
Yep.
sharing now. So check this out. This is an interesting article. Again, it's totally off the subject. So while I'm showing it to you, don't be like, well, "Why are you showing this to me?" So I have nothing to do with nothing.
Oh, y'all can see like my whole screen. Hold on. Or is that your whole screen? Because it's
I
doing
would
my thing.
assume that's my whole screen, right? Oh, here we go, right here. Boom. This is it.
From
This is a
paperclip to
real
house.
yes. Yes, this is an article I ran across, right? From paperclip to house in 14 trades. This is very interesting. So a 26-year-old Montreal man appears to have succeeded in his quest to barter a single red paperclip all the way up to a house. It took almost a year and 14 trades, but Kyle McDonald has been offered a 2-story farmhouse in Kipling, Sask for a paid role in a movie. I didn't break all that down. McDonald began his quest last summer when he decided he wanted to live in a house. He didn't have a job, so instead of posting a resume to look for a job, he looked at a red paperclip on his desk and decided to trade it on an internet website. He got a response almost immediately from a pair of young women in Vancouver who offered to trade him a pen that looks like a fish. McDonald then bartered the fish pen for a handmade doorknob from a potter in Seattle. In Massachusetts, McDonald traded the doorknob for a camp stove. He traded the stove for a U.S. Marine sergeant in California for a 100-watt generator. In Queens, New York, he exchanged the generator for the instant party kit, an empty keg, and an illuminated Budweiser beer sign. McDonald then traded the keg and sign for a Bombardier snowmobile. He brought her all the way up to an afternoon with rock star Alice Cooper, a Kiss snow globe, and finally a paid role in Corbin Burnson movie called Donna on Demand. This was just a really, really interesting article about how this guy just kept trading, and he traded his way all the way up to a house. I'm gonna close this out. I'm gonna stop sharing. Hang on one second. Let me close this out. Can I stop trade? Can I stop sharing? I can't stop
You
sharing.
did. You did.
Well, why am I okay? All right, let me. I got you. I'm still looking at the same screen. Yeah. I just thought that was an interesting article that I ran across. It was just something creative and interesting to think on, man. It's interesting how people the creative ideas that people come up with, right? It's another lady that got inspired by him doing it, and she started to do it last year. I didn't read like the culmination of it, but like she started it and put a TikTok video up and got millions of TikTok followers behind her, following her, doing and on Instagram as well. And then the pandemic started and all of that good stuff last year. So I think I kind of threw a monkey wrench in her plans, but the creativity was just interesting. The creativity to just say, look at a paper clip on your table and say, I'm gonna start from here and I'm gonna trade up. That was just incredibly interesting.
To a house.
I
But
came
Paul,
across a book. I came
Uh-huh.
across a book like that. And it was a guy who like bartered his way from Australia. I have to find it, but yes, it's not. I would say it's not uncommon.
That's interesting. I think
So,
that's interesting.
but I mean, I think that definitely speaks to our topic, for tonight. Like, it really starts with belief. He believed that he could exchange value, right? He believed enough in himself that he could find something of value that somebody was willing to exchange for something of greater value. And he just kept exchanging, those things until he got to the end result. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so what did that speak to you all? I mean, what did that story share or say to you about, I don't know, people in general, or you as a person?
That jumped out at me because of, and I don't know. I think it had something to do with what's in me. You see, you see and spotlight in others either what's in you or what you would like to see in you or something to that effect. But the creativity in a story like that, man, the creativity is what really jumps out at me. People can do the most amazing things, man. People are the most amazing beings. They really are. A story like that gives me perspective, and through perspective I can get confidence from that. I really can. And because you just barter how to barter for paradise. That's the name of the book. Gotcha.
This year, we got it. We
Yeah.
got it. Good stuff there. Good stuff. Good stuff.
You are muted, Margita.
all right.
Yeah.
Sorry, he went from an apple to a house in Hawaii.
Yeah. People can do the most amazing things, man. It's so interesting. Like when a person puts their mind to something. Like I've said this before, like the truth
Hmm.
is, we're gonna talk about another side of this tonight, but I think the truth is, man, it's like, you, me, we as individuals, like anything we truly put our mind to, that we can set our mind to, and get focused on having, being, creating, acquiring, is possible. It's totally possible. It's like it's no reason. There's no reason why why you can't have what you want. You know what I mean? Like it's possible. So if it's possible, you just got to get to creating
Mm.
and believing. And
Believing
believing.
and creating and believing. So, man, what would you say is the energy behind creativity? Right? Because I think about those who are fully in creative spaces, artists and musicians, and people who just who we typically consider creatives. But there are others who are creative in different spaces. I consider myself a creative engineer and entrepreneur, because I pull systems and things together that maybe typically weren't running together, right? So that's where and how I can use my creativity. But I'm curious, like, where does that energy come from with you all? How do you tap into that creative energy, you know, and how do you connect it to who you are?
Yeah.
Do one question at a time.
I can speak to the first part, and I have to think on the second part. But
Mm-hmm.
where it comes from, I believe it's one of the place it comes from is necessity.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from being in a tight situation, being in a stressful situation. Like I can get creative. Like when the solution is easy, you don't have to get creative. Think I could think of it that way. If the solution is difficult, then I'm forcing my creativity. You know what I mean? So, and those situations are situations that you find yourself in where you feel stumped, basically. So it's like I don't know where to go. So those necessity situations, it's like I got to do something. I didn't know what to do, but I had to do something. So you get creative. But I think that another part to that, I think during those times is when you develop the muscle. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when you develop the muscle and you exercise the muscle, you stretch the awareness. And I think when you stretch the awareness, it never comes back. You expand your horizons. You discover new levels of what's possible for you. You can get in that flow. You can get in that flow a whole lot easier because you've been pushing and grinding at the necessity level, and you worked your way through that. So it's like when you get to the level that now you're not doing it out of necessity, you're doing it because that's what you've trained yourself to do. You get what I'm saying? I mean, like when I was in sales, through necessity, I trained myself to do 3 demos a day. But then later on, after I got myself out of that necessity state, I found myself, I was able to get into the flow state. The flow state is where you're not even thinking. It's just rolling, you know what I mean? But it can't roll like that unless you swing in the bat hundreds of times, unless you take it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shots. You know what I mean? So I think a part of that comes from necessity, and through necessity, you discover, you know what I mean, what your abilities are, and then it just, you know what I mean, like you get in the flow. It's like I get in the flow after that because I'm used to taking the actions. I guess that's a good way. That's a good way to say it.
Used to taking action. I thought you were taking us out, man. You put the man on spotlight like that. I love it. I love it. But it was getting some. You muted again.
I'm working on my videography, studying some other stuff.
Your
Like, all right,
production.
yeah, whatever you
I
want to call
see
it.
you. I see you. I see
I like
you.
to be behind the scenes for real. I just get on camera because I'm part of the trio.
Well, we like having you here. And speaking of, so all right, we're talking about esteem. We go dive into it, like who we are, because that's what this podcast is all about. It's about us telling our story, our journey, telling it our way. Through our different unique experiences as creative entrepreneurs, as professionals, as people of faith, as family members, as all of these different layers, right? And Maurice has talked about necessity being one of those places where creativity is
One of
spawned
those
and sparked.
drivers.
One of those drivers of creativity. Majidi, if you want, you speak to the driver piece of it, or where do you connect to your creativity? How do you connect to your creativity?
uh,
Wow. Wow.
my
So
first thought
so
was like, what creativity? Like, I don't consider myself creative. However, um, when I have to figure things out, I guess you could say that's out of necessity. But when I have to figure out a solution, um, I find one. Like I don't let anything stop me. So that's probably when I'm most creative. It's just like when I see that there's area of improvement or areas of growth. I'll give you an example. I did a live yesterday with a sister who's part of Womb, and for those that don't know, Womb is woman-owned minority businesses. And we had decided to do this collaboration, have a conversation on Instagram Live, and in doing so, um, I was sharing my story, but I talked about how like who I've become in this space, as a financial professional, as a financial conductor, a lot of that was facilitated by my children. And so becoming the model for them of what's possible.
Hmm.
Like that's really what drives me. Because I know they're watching, and they say your my mentor says your role model is a photograph of your future. And I don't want them looking outside of their I want them to seek out, right? Like my daughter right now is watching the Simone Biles story because she's in gymnastics, right? So, she can get inspiration from that. I want to expose her to that, but I don't want to tell my children to do one thing and they see me doing another, right?
Mm-hmm.
That congruence is important to me, maintaining that trust with them. So, me becoming and getting creative, right? Because I'd have been comfortable, kind of just doing my thing, not really making measurable progress, but not really leveling up, if you will. But with them, it's like, whoa, like they're watching me. And what am I modeling? What does the picture look like? Right? Like if they
Mm-hmm.
took a picture of my life right now, like what does that look like? And
Mm.
do I
Ooh.
like the picture? And
Ooh.
if not, then what can I do about it? Right? Like I feel empowered to do something about it. Like we have unlimited capacity for progress as humans. And so I just believe that like there's a solution, right? There's somewhere you can grow. But she shared with me this values assessment. And that's one of the ways that I get creative. Like when I'm like learning about myself helps me to become more creative. I guess is the best way to say it. And I took this values assessment, and my top value was personal development.
Mm.
And like as I looked at that, I was like, well, that makes sense because I know that when I get better, then I'm better in my relationships, and I'm better in business, and I'm better with my finances. Right when I'm growing, and so like in order for me to become more creative in the solutions that I find for myself, I got to be growing. I can't what is it? They said you can't solve problems at the same level
That
that
you
you
created them.
created them, right? So I gotta grow to a different level to solve the problems that I created at the level that I was at. So
That's
that's
interesting.
probably what,
I
yeah.
want to take that and I want to tie it into the esteem piece. Uh, one of the areas that I found myself being very creative is in language. Right, you messed up. No, she's got the production going on. But language. I'm very creative linguistically, and when it comes to see, I'm using those words. However, no, we'll just say continue. So in addition to that, or along that line, I've written a book of poetry. I'm writing another and completing one now, and for me, it was always an outlet, right, to clear out what was in my mind and to add some sort of order and structure to it. So using language, the one thing that I discovered was that I could write my destiny. I could write my future. I could literally take the words and the thoughts and the mind and what was in my mind and to put it out in an organized form to tell a story. And sometimes it would come off, cryptic. And so I had to learn how to be more direct, or, I had to learn how to be more conversational in it. But I learned through listening, through observation, through interaction and engagement, through reflecting with people as well as by myself. And so a lot of who I am is who linguistically, or language wise, who I imagine I could be. And I spent time and effort to write it out. Right. I decided, my book, it's around here somewhere. Do a little shameless plug, you know, Above the Waves, Poetic Journey Through Personal Revelation. It's available on my link tree at Bobey World, BOBEY_world. You can find that. But one of the things that I gained from completing that project was getting a better understanding about who I am. Literally, I have a poem in there called "Who Am I," and I speak about all of those things that I am, and I tell a story of who I was, who I see myself as becoming, and what that looks like and this is what 2009 that I published it. So definitely a different version of myself, and I think it's so interesting that I anticipated writing the next book about a decade later, and the next book, about a year or two after that, and realizing that I needed to grow into the identity that I imagined ahead of time, right? That the challenges that were before me, that I didn't have, the skills, that I didn't have the tools, I didn't have, the wisdom, the knowledge, the esteem, even to say that, oh, I can jump into that identity now. That I had to do some work. I had to go and experience the world and experience different people, and I needed to have a long term relationship that that I could love and lose, and it wasn't what I sought out per se. I wasn't looking to lose, but I realized, man, I needed to go out and experience and feel life, because at that point a lot of it was just up in my head. It was perceived life, right? That this is where I'm becoming independent of most of what's around me. There's some key things that I focus on, but my esteem, a lot of times I feel like I've always had a certain confidence about who I am, because I dove into to scripture or through the word, and discovered bits and pieces, watching cartoons and things like that, where I connected with different heroes, and I saw those heroes having traits that I identify with. So absorbed all of that in order to construct an identity and build who I am. And I mean, I don't know. I wanted, do y'all have you all done anything? Are there any other references that you have along the way? Like for me, the Hulk, Spider-Man, Wolverine, a bunch of other heroes, you know, that I've come across. I'm like, oh yeah, I got a little bit of that in me. Mainly because a lot of them are, they don't have like a ton of depth. They have like a couple of key things that they do, but they may go deeper. But any references along the way that you all have or picked up that may have influenced who you are, how you see yourself? Is that a clear question? Okay.
Yeah, I think I said this before. Not none of the what I guess popular perception of superheroes. I guess that's the word I'm trying to say. Like none of the characters, the Marvel characters that you named. You hear me talk about Rocky a lot, though. You get what I'm saying? Like it's the same way that I kind of identify with that a lot, and identify with that. I think I've said this before, is because Rocky just kept getting back up. He just kept getting back up. Now I know his story was more than that. I mean, he eventually, people wouldn't have loved him or what he stood for if he just kept getting knocked down and getting back up and never became champion. You know what I mean? Now, I think that was important, but I definitely think the core thing that people resonated with in him was the fact that he kept getting back up. That was what resonated with me. The Rocky that I enjoyed the most was the one after he went broke. Like after he lost his money. I don't know if y'all saw Rocky or if y'all follow Rocky or not, but that was one of the episodes. One of the episodes was, after he made the money, after he had the belt, and after he had lost it, and like now, like his whole career and how much money he made and all that good stuff was kind of like on the line basically. And then he lost his money in one of the episodes, and he had to kind of in that episode it kind of came back to more or less of a respect issue. That's what that episode was about. It wasn't about him winning in the ring. It was about him him solidifying his street credibility. You know what I mean? Which kind of was one of the things that I was thinking about in relationship to me as Majida was speaking. Because for me, like talking about that street credibility thing with him, that for him in the Rocky movie, I guess that was a part of who he was, right? So for me, I'm a bit of an influencer, right? So going back to what Majida was saying about growth, right? I feel that as well, right? Like so, I'm an effective influencer, but only when I'm growing. Only when I'm growing. When I'm not growing, like I don't have nothing to talk about. I don't have I won't even say I don't have anything to talk about. I feel like I just
You
feel like
can't add more value.
I feel like my influence is diminished. I don't really know of a better way to really say that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me, just kind of summarizing all of that, the influence piece is important to me. The respect for myself, like with the Rocky thing in that episode I was just talking about, that is also very important to me, and like I said, it's all tied in to one another. It's definitely all when I'm working on myself. And I want to be. I'm thinking because I'm thinking as I'm talking about it. I'm measuring my words. When I feel like I'm working on myself the way that I should be, I guess I could just say I feel like my influence piece kicks in a whole lot more. My belief, my conviction, um, all of that stuff, my creativity, going back to that, like with the driver of all of that kind of kicks in more. And I've observed it from both sides of the coin. I've observed myself when I'm not working on myself, and I've observed myself when I am working on myself. So I'm kind of at the same place that Majida said. I have to be. It's an internal thing with me. It's an internal thing with me. I have to be working on myself. I ain't got nothing to talk about if I'm not. I have to be growing.
I feel that. You touched on something really interesting to me though, is in saying that, Rocky wouldn't have the influence that he's had without the champion moment, right? That he just kept getting back up. Like he'd be known for getting back up, but that's as far as the respect would have gone.
Yeah,
But rising to the level of champion is really what solidified the legend of Rocky.
yeah.
And, even seeing him struggle after that with maintaining that, I want to ask Majida and then you, Maurice, what were some champion moments in your life that let you know, man, I'm built for this? If you've had those, right? Or is that something you're still seeking?
Um,
And I mean, lay them out as many as you got.
I don't know if I have a lot, but I would say one of my champion moments was definitely when I coached girls basketball. I had the opportunity to coach girls JV basketball for 2 seasons when I was living in Norfolk. And I coached at Salem High School. And my first season as a head coach of a JV team, we went 9-3. And that was like huge for me because I had no experience. I was hired, and my two assistant coaches had previous experience in, as
You
coaches,
had those, right? Or
and I was hired.
is
Now
that
I
something
heard
you
later
still
that there might have been some other reasons why I was hired. That doesn't matter to me because my results speak for themselves, right? Whatever reason I was hired, even if that wasn't, if I wasn't hired based on merit, if you will, my results showed, and so I was pretty proud of that. Like, I'm supposed to be here, right? Like I could do this. Um, so yeah, that would be like my champion moment. That like, and I've shared this before. The idea that up until that point, I hadn't really made any personal decisions for myself. I just did what I was expected to do. I went to school, I
Hmm.
got the grades, I got the job, and then when I was like, what do I want to do? And coaching was that decision. And so I sought out that opportunity. No, basketball was probably the first decision that I made for myself in the seventh grade, where I was like, I need to go play this, and I was adamant about it. So yeah, playing basketball, and then later down the road, being able to coach basketball were two opportunities where like I'm supposed to do this, right? I'm meant for and I've learned a lot through both experiences. Basketball for me, like you said, was kind of an outlet. I wasn't, of course, the most talented, but I worked hard at it, right? Like I loved the game and I was willing to put in the work. And so, as a coach, really teaching the fundamentals and encouraging my girls to give their best. And I remember my second year coaching, one of my girls never played basketball before. She was a softball player, but she had a crazy arm, right? She went from throwing a softball to throwing a basketball, but like being able to find like what their strength was on the basketball court, like she took the ball out every time because I had a couple other girls who could like run, right? Like they were just And so we would just do fast break where we do an out of bounds play, and I would send them running down the floor, put her out of bounds. I just throw it to the other end, they'll get it and lay it up, you know. So that was exciting, being able to find their strengths on the court, regardless of their experience level, regardless of um, their gift in basketball. It was really cool to be able to do that, to be creative in that realm. But also, to show them, right, that they can win, wherever they are. They can contribute. They can, um, what's the word? Yeah, they can contribute in a meaningful way. So
That's cool. That does sound like a pretty solid champion moment. And I want you to start thinking about since then what other champion moments you have. But Maurice, your champion moment. Or would you like me to go first? I couldn't
you're
hear you.
muted, bro.
Go ahead, go for it.
All right. So my champion moment, I mean, it goes back middle school. You know, I was running track and I got to eighth grade and I lost my first race to one of my guys, I'll never forget him, Josh, on the track team. He was on our team. And I decided at that point I wasn't going to lose to any, because I lost half the year in seventh grade because I had a hamstring injury. So I was doing high jump and I was doing, some relay races. And so coming back eighth grade year, I focused on one race. I focused on being, the champion of the mile. Right. And so came back. And after losing that first race, I said, man, I'm not going to let nobody else beat me the rest of this year. And literally went out and won every race but one. Every race but one. And that was like a 3-team meet. But that was one of those moments that I realized, man, I'm built to rise to the top. Right. And there are going to be challenges that are greater than me as I continue to climb. And I think I recognized the pattern. And I wish I had a coach who helped me to stay with that. But the lesson never left me. Right. The lessons of winning and running and rising to the top and had that determination never left me. So another champion moment was getting accepted into college early decision. Because for me, like the whole process of like applying and paying and having to sell yourself to the schools and all these essays. I mean, I intended to apply for 5 colleges. I only finished one application, and that was the one that I got to submit early without an essay. And fortunately, that was a school that accepted me, so I got to cruise pretty much after that. But knowing that, all right, I could get in because my test scores were, high enough that they would shoot me in. So that was another kind of champion moment. I got into college without what I would consider a lot of effort, but then college hit and it required a lot more of me. And I mean, it beat me up. It beat me down. I had to switch majors in engineering. I didn't even start in engineering. So I was like a semester behind and I didn't really have the community and I had to like go out and find them. And I had to do all this work in the environment. It was, predominantly European college. And so that was a whole culture shock. So there was this whole journey of finding my own identity. And I mean, at a low point where I was at the senior level, but I was still stuck in a loop of like not sophomore, but junior classes because of one course that was holding me up. But I was on a senior design team and it was a national NASA design competition that our project was part of. And so, me and 5 other guys put together a project, and I was one of the team leaders on that project. I did a lot of the writing and the editing and the synthesizing, all of the different information to make a comprehensive design. And so it was a surprise. It was a huge surprise when I was feeling like, man, I don't even know if I'm built for this engineering thing. Our design paper won first place. And it was another one of those, oh, I'm built for this. Right. Okay. So maybe I wasn't in my right, but when I really put all of my energy into it, similar to like track or applying to college,
We can do the most amazing
I
things.
can
Yeah.
get them, and not just, and it was more than just that we placed or we got, but it was number one across the nation. That to me just tell me, man, I'm built different, right? I may not be in my gift right now, but when I put myself into it, I can, and I should, and I will rise all the way to the top, even in something that I don't love.
Yeah.
So what did that say about me? Is that I'm looking for champion opportunities from here forward. How am I going to take my life and my lifestyle? How can I dare to dream bigger? Because I know, man, when I commit and I really go all in, I'm going to be number one. It's a foregone conclusion. I've got too much evidence in my past to say when I put my all into it, I rise to number one. And it may be a few who show up near the end who show me that, but nope, my expectation is to be a number one. And it all
And
started from winning little races in like elementary school. You know what I'm saying?
I do want to if challenge that a little, if you will, because you speak about like the stage, and I've heard before like champions aren't built in the ring, right? Like they're not built at the championship get right, like the title match, right? That's not where they're built. And often, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who like they wait for the ring match to show themselves approved, and like that's not where you get your self esteem, right? Like that's not where you should get it, right? Like in because you're going to get knocked out if you haven't prepared. And I think often enough, right? Like you have very specific champion moments that you can recall in your life, and I think for myself, I don't recognize enough of them, right? Like for me it's just like, oh, I'm just doing what's necessary, I'm doing what's required. And like for other people it may seem like a big deal, but learning to celebrate those small wins, celebrate the progress that you're making, I think is important too, in order to increase your self-esteem, right? Because if you're just doing what you think is necessary, you're just doing what you think is required, and you never celebrate it, then you can have a false perception of your growth, right? You may be thinking like, I haven't really gotten that far, right? I haven't really done that much. But from the outside looking in, people could be like there's nobody else doing what you're doing, right? Somebody said this to
Mhm.
me, I don't know, it was a couple months ago or something like that. They were like, who else do you know who's Asiatic woman in Richmond who's like a construction project manager? Right? Like I don't personally know any. Like doing what
Ooh.
I'm doing. And I've been doing this almost 15 years. And it's not like I know that there are other women who are running companies in construction, right? So like I don't feel like what I'm doing is a big deal, but in my environment, what I'm doing can be impactful, right? Instead of measuring myself against somebody who's at a different level, measuring myself based on who I am, where I've come from, and what I'm doing within the environment, within the associations that I have, I think is important too. And it's not measuring me against it or saying or competing with other people, but seeing myself as a model or an example for other people to follow, right? Like I don't necessarily always look at myself that way. Like, why would anybody follow me? Like I don't feel like I'm doing anything extraordinary, and for me, it may not be because I know that there's another level that I can grow to. There's more that I have in me. But if I look at people who need hope, or people who are looking for um, inspiration, or looking for a role model, like I can become that. And I know the opportunities that I've been afforded on the path that I've been in, and what's allowed me to get to that level is my mindset. So being able to share that with other people, like it's possible, right? Like I talk all the time, in my career in construction, there's not a lot of people doing, right? Like there's not a lot of people going into construction to begin with. But being in a management position in that industry, like it is unique for somebody where I come from. You know what I mean? Um
Mhm.
and so not taking those things lightly either, that like you can still be inspire other people on the path that you're on, even though you may not see it as a great leap. So
No, that's a good point. Great point that you bring up. As sometimes those wins that are common to us, are extraordinary to others. And so, being mindful to celebrate that. I want to come back to something else you said, but go ahead, Maurice.
Oh, with
Champion
my
moment.
yeah, okay. um I don't want to go back too far and give my age. So I don't want to go back too far, but I'm kind of one of those people that what you just now said, Bakar, kind of resonates with me. Like if I put my mind to it, I already know what the results is going to be, right? This is weird because I feel like I'm in here by myself right now because I can't see either one of y'all. But if I put my mind to it, I already know what's gonna happen, right? If I'm interested in it,
Wait,
if I'm interested in it, go ahead.
now I was gonna ask the question. We want to come back to where does that come from, but go ahead.
All right. If I'm interested in it, then I'm gonna be willing to work at it. I'm gonna be willing to study it and
Mm,
dig into it. And if I do that, then I know that I'm gonna come out somewhere, excuse me, between 1 and 5. 1 being the top of the class, 5 being the middle of the class. That's where I'm gonna start off at.
that's a small class.
Five being the median. You know what I mean? Like
It's a really
you got
small class.
you got. Well, don't look at it
Classes
that
are
way.
like 30.
Don't look at it that way. You got the ones that are producing optimal results, and you got the 10s that ain't producing no results, and the 5s that are producing in the middle. If you throw
Okay.
me in that group of people and I'm new and I'm just getting started and I'm interested in what's going on and I dig into, which if I do that, I'm going to be interested in it. I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to study it. The product, the outcome that I produce when you measure it up to theirs, and this is from the start of the project, I'm gonna come out somewhere between 1 and 5. So I'm gonna come out in the top 50% of the class, and
Gotcha.
that's starting off. And that's what always happens. That's what always happens in my life. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I don't want to go back too far. I'm kind of experiencing a championship moment right now in trucking, and I'm just trying to kind of relate to how y'all were talking about y'all's championship moment. So like arriving at the moment where you kind of feel like where you realize that you're doing better than you thought you were. Basically,
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying? And I kind of had one of those moments today, man. I'm so
Ooh.
ignorant when it comes to trucking, and I'm being totally honest, right? So um, I'm so ignorant when it comes to trucking that I don't know. Like if every day is a sunny day, you don't know what a sunny day is. You got to have a rainy day in it to know what a sunny day is, right? So
Okay.
um, I'm so much of a virgin in trucking that I have a hard time understanding where I am because I don't have anything to compare it to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I could not be making any money and I wouldn't know because I don't have anything to compare it to. On the same note, I could be making more money than an average trucker that's doing it like me, and I wouldn't really know because I don't have anything to compare it to. I might still be running around looking to make more money, and everybody else is hearing me and saying, "Yo, you making good money," but I don't know that because I don't have anything to compare it to. So, but I mean, what's been happening recently, just because of where I am right now and the transition that I'm trying to make and the questions that I'm trying to ask and all of that good stuff. I mean, I'm getting more perspective about where I am right now based on how much money I'm making daily, how much money I'm earning weekly, how much money my truck, I should say, is earning monthly. I mean, now I'm looking at my own situation like I need to produce more. I need to, and I want to produce more. But I'm hearing veterans, and they might not know my figures, but they're telling me their figures. Like a guy today told me some figures. Man, you go over there and make real good money. Now I used to pull out of that place. I don't consider that good money. So you know what I mean. So I'm like maybe I'm doing better at this thing when comparing it to other truck drivers than I believe that I am. You get what I'm saying? I'm looking at other truck drivers like everybody else is making more money than me. Everybody else got more knowledge than me. Everybody else, but it might not be that. It might not be that. Again, if you throw me in like I'm a worker, and there's a part of me that needs to compare what I'm doing to others so I can get a bearing of where I am, right?
You
But
need a
there's a part of
benchmark.
say it again.
You need a benchmark.
But you're exactly right. That's a great word. But there's also another part of me that just I'm a worker. I'm a worker. And because I'm a worker, because I don't necessarily always measure by other people, I go as hard as I feel like I need to. That's why I always come out in the 1 to 5 percentile. That's why I'm not a person that necessarily like when I come in the door, I'm looking at what the others is not doing. I'm looking at, I'm looking at, I know how I run. I know how I run my truck versus how other people run their truck. I got a couple other people live on my street as well. I see what time I leave and what time I get back and what time they leave and what time they get back. You get what I'm saying? I kind of see that. So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I really just, the guy just said it to me today, man. He was like, yeah, man, he quoted a figure to me and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing better at this thing than I think I am, which it makes me appreciate where I am and what I'm doing and what I've accomplished a whole lot more. No different than that championship moment that y'all were just now talking about. You get out on the floor and you see how good your team is, and it's like, wow, I'm doing good, but you kind of needed that experience to have the bar there. You know what I mean? The same exact thing for you, Bakar.
Yeah, and I would tell you something just came out that you might not have picked up on. The 1 to 5 percentile is a lot different than the 1 to 50th. and you just said 1 to 5. I want you to know
The
what
top
comes out
half.
of you.
The top half.
No, that's not what you said though. That's not what you said. That might have been what you intended.
That's what I meant.
But I'm gonna take what you said because what you said, I want you to see and know that you've probably risen to the 1 to 5 percentile in certain areas, or maybe within a certain space or an environment, which may put you in the top, 25% or the top half, however you look at it. But it really all depends on what your benchmarks are, and so that's kind of another question. But I want to give Majida a chance to go back to see what's happened since her champion moments and how she's either stacked them up, racked them up, or maybe still hunting, and then kind of come back to you, Maurice. Well, you and I a little bit dialogue about the those benchmarks. So Majida, more champion moments.
More champion moments. I would say probably, I don't know, within the last couple years, I've not only embraced my identity in the financial space, but I realized that I I don't say I belong, but I can belong in the construction space. Like for a long time, I was just like, I'm not supposed to be here. They don't want me here, and I'm gonna just keep my head down, do my job, and not make too much noise. Right, just do a good job. And I can't recall what maybe sparked it, but like a couple years ago, I saw enough evidence, like you said, that like I'm for lack of a better term, like I'm killing the game, right? Like I felt like that. Like I could look at my numbers. I keep track every job that I manage, what the estimated gross profit is and what the actual gross profit ends up being at the end of the job. And I can say 90% of my jobs make greater than the gross profit, the estimated profit. So, like, I make the company more money than they expect to make 90% of the time, right? I literally can count on one hand the number of jobs in the last 9 years that have been at or below the estimated gross profit. Um, so, like the numbers, right, tell me or give me the evidence that like you know what you're doing, but because I didn't feel necessarily welcome in the space. Like I never saw myself or I never looked to assert myself like in this space. It was just like, look, I'm just gonna do what I'm supposed to do. I'm gonna support the projects, right? But then when I got into a position of leadership, kind of back to what Maurice was saying, like when you're in a position where you like have to perform and
Mm,
you realize that you outperform or you do better than you expect, or then really not so much that you expect it of yourself. You know you're going to perform well, but you do better than other people expect you to do. It's like y'all,
it's a good feeling.
like y'all underestimated me, right? And
Yeah.
you always have, right? Like you never expected me to be here, And then when I show up and I do more than what you expect me to do, um, it can it can create that sense of accomplishment, or that sense of confidence in yourself that like you don't know what's right, what like they don't know what's in me, right? Like only I know. But something that one of my mentors says all the time is that most people have never been given an opportunity worthy of their best. Like we don't even know what our capacity is until we're tested. I think
Totally
Maurice spoke
agree.
about that with one of our first podcasts or something, where you talked about like you got to be tested. You got to go through some adversity to really recognize what it is that you have in you. And without that, you really don't know. And so, um,
Which
similar to what you all have said, like I think it's in us to perform at a high level, but we just gotta find the right environment. We gotta
A seed
seek out.
can't grow in the right without being in the right kind of soil.
Yeah,
A fish,
absolutely.
no life can express itself, can grow and mature without being in the proper environment.
Like
See,
I think some of us are used to being seeds in rocky soil,
Yeah,
right? Like we just
yeah.
gonna push
mm,
through. We're gonna get through the cracks. We're gonna grow regardless. We're gonna grow in spite of the adverse conditions. And there's something to be said about that because not everybody has that resilience, right? Um, but
however,
recognizing like that in and of itself is like that's the champion within you, right? Like you don't
absolutely,
have to become a champion. Like you just got to bring the champion out of you.
I agree
Um,
totally.
but we don't often see ourselves as that. Kind of back to what I was speaking about earlier, right? Like I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do, but like the way that I think or the way that we think about certain things like is not necessarily normal, right? How we persist in spite of, or we don't see the obstacle, we see the opportunity, or we're like just the way that you see things, and you choose to work in spite of that. Like that in and of itself is the champion within you.
I
And
don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry, but I was
go
watching
ahead,
this
go
thing.
ahead.
I was watching this thing today on Vox on YouTube about how the island of Jakarta is sinking, has been sinking for years now, and it's still people there. Like it's still people there. They like, yo, yeah, well, we gotta live close to the coast because we gotta keep fishing. You know what I mean? Like we gotta keep fishing. Like I done built up my house 4 times. I'm fearful of the future. I'm fearful for my children. Da 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 da. Da. But like I'm like, look at these people. Life, they adapting to it. It. You know what I mean? Like
wow,
people do the most amazing things, man. People, humans, extremely adaptable. Like I mean, again, that's that championship resiliency that is innate within you. And to piggyback on what Majida is saying, like I'm sure that man didn't even see himself. Like I saw that and I'm like, yo, you are freaking amazing, dude. He probably don't see that in himself. He just doing what he got to do to survive. I'm just
Yeah.
being normal. But like I believe that if you could stand back off of yourself, you know what I mean, and look at some of the sugar honey iced tea that you know what I mean, like that people go through in general. I'm not bigging up myself. I'm just saying that people
Mhm.
go through in general. It's like, man, y'all are freaking rock stars, dude, for real. like wow, like Tony Robbins talks about that a lot, like all of the things that people as all the adaptations that they've gone through and made, and all of the things that and I'm talking about people, but we are people. That is in us, each one of us. You know what I mean? So
And
yeah,
it's something that
okay,
I heard this some time ago. Everybody thinks that they have to have the Rocky story in
mm-hmm.
order for it to be of value. You know what I mean? Like it has to be this huge triumph, or they have to go through these tough, this unimaginable adversity and overcome that for it to be like worth it. But like there could be a single mama there who literally is working 2 or 3 jobs to make sure that right her family is taken care of, and then as going to school at night so that she can better, right? Like that in and of itself, right? That's necessarily a rocky story, right? Like she's not gonna be no champion boxer, but like who is she becoming for her children? Who is she being? Right? She's a hero to them. You know what I mean? Because she could have thrown her hands up, given up, and been like, you know what? I can't handle it. I'm gonna turn them over to the foster care system. I'm gonna let somebody adopt them, right? Like she could have, right? But she just chose to put her head down, go to work. I don't want to say put her head down because I don't even like that. She just chose to put her right, keep her head up,
And
go to
Pope.
work, and do what she needs to do to be able to provide for her children. And I think that is admirable, right? Like those are the things that we should celebrate even more. You know, we don't have to. It doesn't have to
Life
be
ain't
this.
that
Oh,
dramatic. Because life is
yeah,
not that dramatic. It's the little
no,
mundane things that make the difference. That makes
absolutely.
total sense.
It's that right. The daily disciplines over time that create that champion, um, or that reveal that champion within you. And you know, oh, you were asked earlier, Bakara, about like some inspiration, right? Mine necessarily wasn't like superheroes, you know, until Black Panther came out because that was just like super dope. But I would say Pursuit of Happiness, right, is one of those movies that like I remember, right? And I don't remember. I can watch a ton of movies and I don't remember none of the details, but like movies that move me, right, that like get to my heartstrings, like they stick with me. And Pursuit of Happiness was one of those because it was like this father was willing to do whatever he had to do to, one, not only keep his son, but two, create a better future for himself, right? Create, you know, have a better opportunity for his family. And so that's inspiring, but like um I keep, you know, sometimes I wonder, like, all right, do I have to like lose everything to get right
I
to
wonder
that
that
next level?
sometimes.
Do I have to like let it all go, you know, stop, you know, being attached or holding on to what I have in order to be able to? And I don't know. I don't know. Like, in sometimes in the back of my mind, I've thought about that. Like, just let it all go and like start over, right? Like, stop. Don't be so attached to what you have, because then you don't allow yourself to be open to what's greater. And so, um, but yeah, everybody doesn't have to have the hero story, the dramatic, you know, finish
I think
or
that's just the, I think that's
I
just
wanted to
that's
touch on that too, though.
because I think that's just the movies anyway. Like it's a movie. You know
It's
what I mean?
conditioned, right?
They produce it that way to make it, you know what I mean? But I think the inside of even that journey, even the inside of that journey, it's not this, you know, dramatic. It's the little mundane, everyday decisions and choices and things that individual does. You know what I mean? And
Any
again,
sort
what's
of.
the name said that in the book, The Slight Edge. Like life
Mhm.
is not you know what I mean, a sword fight, or you know what I'm saying. That's not what it is. It's putting your seatbelt on when you get in the car. You get what I'm saying? It's making, you know what I mean. It's the
yeah,
little stuff. It's the unexciting things. You know what I mean. So go ahead, Bakar. I apologize about
Oh,
that.
I was gonna say, and any sort of disruption can create a dramatic effect in the life. Even seeing yourself as the seed growing out of rocky soil, like that's a mindset, as opposed to being infertile soil, right? And imagining yourself, oh man, where I'm planted is fertile, you know, where I can
oh
grow
no,
and I
it's
can
definitely
thrive.
rocky soul because they don't water you, right? Like like I'm being honest, right? Being in, like, no, I was not in an environment where
But
anybody was intentionally like cultivating
but
me.
can I push against that just a little bit, if you don't mind?
Yeah, yeah,
If you don't mind. And I mean, you may agree with this, but you may not, right? So if the creativity is birthed out of the necessity, isn't it so that the situation that is inclusive of necessity, like that is the fertile soil?
no,
I mean, that's kind of the way that I see it. You get what I'm saying? And like, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, because you go.
I feel where you're going with that. Yeah.
Like
no.
you.
I was so okay. I'll give you an example. Right,
Okay.
fertile soil is me nurturing my children's gift. Right, they're in an environment where they're loved, they're encouraged, right? They're motive, right? All of that, right? Like I'm cultivating the soil. Hold on. I'm cultivating the soil. I'm watering it. I'm putting fertilizer in it. I want it to grow and prosper, right?
Okay.
Versus being in an environment where I have to prove that I belong there, right? Like nobody's watering it, nobody's throwing fertilizer, right? Like it's thorns, you know what I mean? And being able to see past the thorns and choose to grow anyway, right? Like because I'm wired to grow, because developing personally is my value, I'm going to grow despite the circumstances. But that doesn't mean that they're fertile for me, right? But the fact that I can still grow through that speaks to who I am, not to the environment that I'm in. Like I don't allow the environment to dictate who I become. But
I
because I'm in
agree.
a position as a mother, I choose to create the environment that's going to nurture my children's growth.
And I guess that's kind of the point that I was saying. It's like asking the question, like, okay, if the environment that is the fertile soil, which is being with your children and nurturing your children, like it sounds to me again like it's the environment at work that's causing this, like this awareness of this other thing that you desire more. I don't know if that made any sense to you or not.
She muted
She's
herself.
muted actually. She's muted actually.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
I don't know if she can hear me, I'm sure. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. It seems to me that it is the one that creates the other. You know what I'm saying? It is the unwanted that creates the wanted, right? It is the undesired situation that births the necessity to create the desired situation. And I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. I kind of see I personally don't think people would grow if everything was perfect. I don't think I would change if everything was perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like,
mm,
and so if the fertile environment is the one that is most suitable to me, if the fertile environment is the one that is most suitable and acceptable to me, then where's the stimulation to grow come from? I guess that's kind of a question. I think they say how does the saying go? Necessity is the mother of creativity, or something to that effect, right? So,
mm-hmm. I I want to take it another direction,
sure,
and I
sure.
can see Margita shared a little bit about like not being in an environment where it's being nurtured, and that is one space. And perception is it can be everything, man. Like you living in a rocky space, saying, man, that's the nurturing environment I need, right? I need that rough, I need that tough, I need that hard challenge to keep me moving. Where others, man, I need ease, I need nurture, I need you know something that's going to nurse and nourish me regularly, consistently, and intentionally, and that's where I thrive and I grow. And even being able to bring them together and identify yourself, in different spaces and being able to adapt from one to the other is a nurturing space where, hey, you have variety because you know what it's like to grow in fertile soil. You also know what it's like to grow in a rocky space. What is my point that I'm making with that? Is that one, how you perceive it can affect who you become and how you come out of it. Two, I had a good point here. I should have wrote it down. Um, two is in an environment where you are nourished, nurtured. Maurice, you just talked about you don't imagine or you don't think that you would want to grow. And
When
Mama,
I said I'm saying generally speaking, people.
yeah,
Yeah.
they may say, oh yeah, I get comfortable, I get find some ease. What I find is I'm challenged to reproduce more, right? To grow myself, my influence, to expand more into that fertile space,
So I got a
right?
question on that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't so okay? it would seem to me that that's right back to the same point. And again, we just talking right now too. So, um, but okay, I get in this space that nourishes me. It is me noticing what needs to be corrected or improved that would cause me to want to duplicate or replicate that. You understand? Did you hear what I just said?
Mm-hmm.
It is me looking in other words, okay, so I'm in the space where it nurtures me, and you said from there I would want to produce more of that.
Produce and reproduce even
I'm
more of what you.
so watch this. If your desire is to produce more, that means that you've identified necessity. That means you've identified something that's lacking. That's the other side of desiring to create more. You obviously identified something that's not there, but that's not a bad thing. I think as people, as physical beings, that's one of the things that we're wired to do. We're wired to see, to look out into the space, see what's not there, imagine it, and create it. That's what drives that whole thing. That's kind of what I'm saying. So when we're in an environment that isn't perfect, it seems to me, again, I'm not stuck on this point, but it seems to me that is what that's the engine. That's what causes you to look out and say, I see something that's not there, or I don't see something that needs to be there. And then you get busy producing more or creating that thing. But if you're looking at a space and everything is already there, where does the stimulation to create more come from? This is kind of one of the discussions that we've talked about in the temple before. I don't know if y'all understand that before. We've kind of talked about this in the temple before, but
And
that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Feel free to tell me. You know what I mean?
and that's actually something that I was referencing as far as being in a nurturing environment. Like I feel like, man, that community that we grew up, the community we grew up in the Moore Sun Temple was very nourishing, very nurturing. Very. I mean, especially I know for me going out into the rest of the world and the way the rest of the world treated you and looked at you and viewed you and judged you, man, being in our own community where we were building up, thought and building up identity and building ourselves in, values and principles that are of the highest order, man, that fed me and continues to feed me each and every day. Everything that I gained and got. I mean, look at us even now in community working together to build each other up. Like to me, we created this little fertile pot in order to plant and blossom, and all of us are now growing and expanding outside of the pot in different ways, reproducing more of what came out of here. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Got him.
What that
Brother,
mean?
that means that self-esteem um, can continue like that. There isn't comfort for long in that same space. There's some people who do get comfortable and say, okay, yeah, this is all I, and you know what, everything that they built starts to diminish because they quit the habits, they quit doing the things that got them there. So being in that fertile soil again, if it's something that's feeding you constantly and creating and providing a lot of energy, naturally that energy is going to want to continue to transfer, more and more and more. It's not going to get stuck, right? I think that's one of the things that when it comes to people in their esteem, when you cross that border, like you're mightier than thou, or holier than thou, or you're greater than thus, right? is where your esteem can actually work against you. Where overconfidence and conceit and those attributes and arrogance, right, get in the way of you continuing to maintain a level of greatness. When you don't humble yourself to recognize, man, I'm being fed to this point. I'm not doing all on my own. Yes, I work, but sometimes even like you guys mentioned, seeing yourself as just a worker, right, could be the perception that's limiting you from recognizing all of the work that you're doing is setting you apart from the rest, you know, because you're so focused on measuring your steps and your works as opposed to comparing what's going on around you. Just think about it. The people who are spending time comparing are not working. They're not working hard. They're not working much because their energy isn't focused on being better, doing the best job that they have. And that's what I was talking about earlier, Majida. I knew that when I put my all into it, when I went all in, I blocked out everything else and said, man, I'm going to own this piece of real estate. I'm going to own this piece of myself and my life. And whatever the results are, I'll learn, I'll grow from it, I'll benchmark it as, what my capabilities are. So I kind of wanted to come back with you. We at an hour 15, and you talked about a scale, right? Just I'm pivoting a little bit, but you talked about a scale. So if you were to say on a scale of one, right, like one is the highest esteem and 10 being, those people at the bottom, at the back of the class that you mentioned, right? Where would you rate yourself? Normally people go 10 the highest and one, but I want to put it on his head this time. If one is the highest, where would you see yourself? A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Majida, you go first. Where do you see yourself?
I would say like a 3.
You're a 3. Why? What makes you a 3? Not a 2, not a 4, not a 5, not a 1. Why a 3?
Because I grow through rocky soil.
That's your story.
And I mean, um, I don't let my circumstances dictate my results or my outcome. And so, kind of back to what we were saying earlier, I may not see that as a big deal, but in conversation or seeing how other people respond to circumstances outside of themselves, like not everybody does that. Not everybody is an architect of their future. Many
Mm-hmm.
people are victims of their circumstances, and I refuse to be a victim of it. Right? Like I can immediately, right when I choose to, I can immediately pivot, make a different decision, and make a change that's going to change my direction. Right? It may not change my destination in that moment, but it's going to change my direction immediately if I'm not getting the outcome that I want for myself. And to the point about what you were talking about, nurture, having a nurturing environment. I believe in a nurturing environment you can still be challenged
Mm-hmm.
to grow and become more, right. Like you can be comfortable, but what's in you, right, is going to come out. So like me growing through rocky soil, that's what's in me. That has nothing to do, right. I'm not allowing the soil to dictate whether I grow or not. I'm just allowing what's in me to come out.
Mm-hmm.
In a nurturing environment, I have a better opportunity to grow because of the environment. And because of that nurturing environment, I can grow somewhat with ease, but I can also, like you mentioned earlier, you can produce more because now the environment is dictating because you're in fertile ground, you have the ability, right? There's no reason why you can't produce greater fruits or more fruits. And so to answer your 1 to 10 scale question, right? Like, yeah, I see myself as a 3. Wasn't always that way, right? Like this is I'm becoming, right, or unbecoming, you know, that negative self talk and self defeating attitude, right? I kind of said in the description or my title, how's your self esteem, right? Because they say steam. I use that spelling of steam.
Ah, I
Steam
just noticed that.
powers a locomotive, right? And so, what do you
Ooh,
have?
okay. A little
Y'all
creative
missed
with
that.
the wordplay. Yeah, we
Try, right? Like,
we slid that
not
right by
everybody.
us.
See, that's the stuff that I do naturally that may come difficult to other people, right? Y'all need to read my descriptions before we get on this chat. Y'all appreciate it a little bit more.
I figured.
but
Maurice, we got them.
but steam powers a locomotive, right? So like what's in you to power your goals and dreams? What right? Like that's what your esteem is, right? What's in
Mm-hmm.
you to power your goals and dreams? Um people often talk about like your why, right? Like what's your why, right? And sometimes we need that outside um, motivation to bring out our greater capacity, the better version of ourselves. Like I said, for me, it's my children. Before they showed up, I was cruising. I was like, yo, I got a good career. I'm coaching basketball, right? Like I got a business. I'm doing well. Like, and then they showed up and it's like, whoa, it's another level that you can grow to when you become a mother, right? There's a different level of responsibility, like all of that. Like I knew I could become more, and I wanted to, because I knew that who I wasn't going to allow me to be the best mother I could be, and so
Mm.
I had to change, and I wanted to change, right? Like so that's the part that where like you got to do that for yourself. Like nobody can. They say the only self motivation is the only motivation. All right, like that's nobody's going to get you up in the morning and make you go to work but you. You can have a coach that picks up the phone and calls you every morning, but you don't have to pick up, right? Like you know what I'm saying? Like there's a part that you have to do, and the part that you do is it's you, it's your
Mhm.
capacity, right? Or hey, it's what's in you, right? We say we made in the image and after the likeness of God. It's that part in you. I love a quote by Mos Def. He
That part.
says that right, if you see or hear goodness from me, then that goodness is from the Creator, and you should be grateful to the Creator for all of that. But if
Mm.
you see weakness or shortcoming in me, that's my own weakness or shortcoming, and I ask the Creator and the people to forgive me for that. And
Mm.
so, um, that's recognizing that um, divine or divinity within you. Um, I think is right. Like eventually, yeah, I'll say I'm a one because I see examples of people modeling what that looks like. And it really just
Mm.
comes down to their belief level, right? They believe that they are doing what they're purposed to do. They believe in what they're doing. They're fulfilled in doing it. And so they expect to win. They expect the abundance and the fruits from their harvest. Um, so I know I went off on a tangent,
No, but
but
I
a
think that's
three, I'm a three
a great
for
framework.
now.
So today I'm at 3. I'm climbing to the 30 percentile spot. What about you, Maurice?
That's an interesting question to answer. Because I'm not a one-dimensional being. So I
I
mean,
know. It's like, boy, I owe our life and identity down to a number.
yeah. So I
It's
mean,
just
but
a measure, a measure. If you,
yeah. Well, again. I hang on just 1 second.
In
Mhm.
terms of esteem, though,
Yeah, and I think that's the big piece in terms of your
yeah.
esteem. So I'll go while he's
I'm done.
unless he come back. All right.
Yeah. So but I mean, yeah, it depends on what area you're talking about. You know what I mean in life. But I mean, you don't have to say that now. I'm just saying that I'm not a one-dimensional being. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
But I mean, I'm gonna step out on a branch. I'm gonna step out on a limb, and I'm gonna say my self esteem is a 1. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
I have an incredible amount of respect and admiration for myself, especially when I'm doing what I know I need to do, especially when I'm quote unquote in a zone, right? You know what I mean? Like, um, but when I'm not doing that, my self esteem is not there.
Mm.
So when I'm in my space and when I'm in my purpose and when I'm clear and when I'm on track, which something my intuition tells me that that's not always gonna be. So it's like, okay, fine. But I mean, when I'm firing on all 12 cylinders, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely.
So if
Absolutely.
that's the upper limit, what's the lower limit? I think you might
Say
have
it
touched
again.
on that. If that's the upper limit, what's the lower limit?
I'm bipolar, bro. We all are. I ain't even laughing, like we all are.
No, I mean I want to say the lower acceptable limit, like where you set the floor. Like, oh man, I'm not gonna let myself fall down to a 9 on my night. I know I got to pick myself up when I see myself drifting that far. You know what I mean? What's the floor?
The floor is how I'm feeling. I know I know that's I'm not giving you the answer, kind of like, you know what I mean, like, but you know what I
Give
mean.
me the answer.
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, the floor is how I'm feeling, man. When I'm not on, I feel it. Period. When I'm at a 2, I feel it. If my self esteem is at a 1, when it's at a 2, I feel it. You get what I'm saying? And I can't really say, you know, how far do I let that slip before I do something about it? Because there's been times in my life where I've slept all the way down to a 10.
Wow.
Facts. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we being present. We speaking about, you know, today as you evaluate. And I like that you placed a range on that. You know that, man, I shoot up to 1. You know, when
Yo,
I'm
it said it in the greatest salesman in the world. Inside of me is a wheel. I ain't making this up. I ain't just pulling this out of my butt. You get what I'm saying? We all are bipolar. Like the greatest of the great is within you. But don't think for a second that the worst of the worst ain't in you either.
oh yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it is.
Really
Like
is that, yeah.
it absolutely is. You know what I'm saying? Like so. I mean, that's a weird question to answer. That's the reason why I say that. You know what I mean? Like,
And well, I speak of I ask that from a point of view or a framework from you know, every day that I'm working with individuals and I'm training them in the power of their habit, right? And so when what we do in that class is help them to set a vision of themselves, and so each day they're taking steps toward that vision. So the purpose of that is recognizing that, okay, the direction I'm going, there's no going back. I might slip, I might stumble, I might slide, but there's no going back or allowing myself to continue to feed off of the things that aren't taking me in the direction toward that vision. That's why I asked that question in a sort of absolute sort of framework, right? That where do you see yourself in a day, you know, in climbing to 1, or are you, you know, consistently, or you staying on the scale, you know, or in the range? Have you set a floor in your esteem, saying, man, I'm never gonna let myself go back? And then sure, life may test you in that regard, and that's where you build up the muscle.
well, you heard.
So I'll say I'll give an example. It's always been important for me to be even keeled, because I know that, you know, when I get excited, I can go really high. And when I've experienced depression, I didn't even used to acknowledge depression. That's how depressed I was. I was like, this don't even exist. You know, I could go low, and I realized, man, being on that roller coaster caused instability within me. And so, in order to be consistent, you know, in to have integrity, to have consistency, it was important for me to be even keel about, yes, to celebrate the highs, but set a floor. Not that I don't engage with those emotions, but acknowledge that I don't want to feed off of them.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
And so
I can give
recognizing.
you a floor.
Okay.
And again, I don't know if this is probably not going to be the answer the way that you want to hear it, but for me, the floor is to act. That's why to me, why action is so important in my life, because it's the only thing, or this is why you hear me talk about that so much, because it's the only thing I can control. I can't control nothing else. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, it's possible for me to get myself in a position in life where my whole family leaves me. Now, I would hope that never happens. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not intentionally walking in that direction, and I ain't headed in that direction. We all good over here. You get what I'm saying? But I mean, if that was to happen, I can't guarantee that ain't gonna happen. But I can guarantee that I'm gonna act. I'm gonna act. I'm gonna act. You get what I'm saying? Like that's the default for me. You get what I'm saying? I don't really know how else to
But as you're measuring your steps each day, right? The question is,
I'm not measuring my steps. I'm measuring my actions.
Well, all right. Well, steps, actions. That's put them in the same category.
Okay.
Right. As you're measuring your actions every day, are you being intentional in those actions,
Absolutely,
so that you don't run into the situation, or you have a less likelihood that your family will? And like you say, you're all good over there. But that's the kind of thing that I'm saying is, all right, sure, something, you know, way outside of your control can occur, However, how intentional are you about making that less and less of a possibility because of the action and the evidence that you produce? Right.
Mm.
When I think about self-esteem, it comes from a place of evidence. Right. And this is coming from somebody who, full disclosure, was okay with telling myself a different story than what my reality was. Because I could twist and I could rationalize and I could tell it like this. Like I said, creative with the words and the stories that I told myself until I faced the great challenge of who am I, who am I becoming, and what evidence have I produced? Because I'm tearing myself apart if I'm not living out that
Congruent.
which I believe. Yeah, if I'm not fully congruent and in alignment, I'm tearing myself apart. And
You're
so
not living
allow,
with objective reality.
yeah,
I understand that.
and so
Yeah.
that's where I look at the journey in self-esteem is setting a floor, setting a place of no return. I'm not returning to living outside of purpose. I'm not returning to, living for others and doing or living as a victim of my circumstances. I'm not returning to um what else? To not living freely and fulfilled. I'm not going to return to speaking, a double or having, a forked tongue and speaking one thing but doing another, right? So in my journey of esteem is a journey of integrity. It's to fully take ownership of who I am and to do as I say as I do, right? But it's one directional. It's not, oh yeah, okay, well I can backslide and I could be a 9 one day in my esteem because stuff happens. Like, no, I'm gonna take ownership of my esteem and know that I'm marching in one direction. And so anything that may pull me in the opposite direction won't. It'll strengthen me. It won't pull me down.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
what it's
sounds
about.
good. I think that's I'm just being real. I think that sounds good. Life is tough, bro. And the fact of the matter is, like nobody planned for 2020 to happen. Nobody planned for a pandemic to happen. Like nobody plans for that. Like, and I think Mike Tyson said everybody got a plan until you step in the ring and get punched in the
The
face.
mouth.
Like everybody talks,
Yeah.
everybody talks that. Something that my mother pointed out to me, right? And I found this to be true. And I'm actually not pushing back against anything that you said just now. I actually agree with everything that you said. My mother brought up a point to me one time. She said, when you make a declaration like that, you have to be prepared to defend it because life is going to test you. Like
Yeah.
you can't make a statement and say, "Yo, I'm gonna persist until I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this happen." You can't make a declaration like that and then think that you're not gonna have to do whatever it takes to make it happen. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
I
And
do.
and I mean, I'm just saying that life is tough. But here's the good thing about it. Here's the part where I'm agreeing with you on. How you feel don't really matter. I'm one that talks about how we feel a lot of the times, and the fact of the matter is sometimes you're just not gonna feel it. You get what I'm saying? Like sometimes it's just not gonna be there. Sometimes you're not going to have anything in the tank. You're going to face that if you've never faced it before. I ain't talking to you. I'm talking to anybody that may listen to this. You're going to face that if you have never faced it before. You get what I'm saying? But again, I think what's important to remember at those points is it doesn't matter that you got knocked down. It don't matter what happened. It don't matter. It really doesn't matter. Like just get back up. Just and that's what that to me is what resonates in the Rocky story. Not the fact that he got the championship belt and all that is fine, but what resonates to me is the fact that he kept getting back. Like I can't control that. Now, watch this. Now, to be honest with you, I think I'm real enough and experienced enough at life now to know that sometimes I'm gonna act, and all of my belief ain't gonna be behind it. I think Pursuit of Happiness, the guy Chris Gardner would acknowledge that. Like I acted sometimes, even though I didn't feel like it. But
Hmm.
that's what a recipe is. That's what a recipe is. That's what a routine is. A routine achieves the same result, even though when you don't feel like it. right? If I
Yeah.
get up and work out every day, I'm going to achieve the result, even if I don't feel like it. I think that's the importance to me in placing more value on running the mile than losing the weight. Because focusing on losing the weight or the results or what's happening, that can get you in trouble because the
Mm-hmm.
scales don't always match your effort. That's a fact. That
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's a fact. Like sometimes your effort is not going to match your results. You get what I'm saying? So, but it's at those times that you got to not feel it and still act. Well, ain't no use in acting if I don't feel it because I ain't gonna get the result that I. Well, you got to act anyway. You got to act. If you don't work out, you ain't gonna develop the muscle. So you got to act anyway. To me, but the action is the only thing that's in control that we got control of. So it's like I don't want to be controlled by a thing that I don't have control of. You get what I'm saying? I don't have control of what other people think about me, right? I don't necessarily have control over what other people do. And I don't even have control over how I'm feeling all of the times. But how I feel don't necessarily, you know what I mean? Like if I'm acting, I'm going forward. That's another thing I think we got to factor in as well. If I'm doing, I'm going forward. Would you agree with that? There is no doing and you're going. Others may think you're going backwards. Others may accuse you of going backwards. It may appear that you're going backwards. But how can you be doing and going backwards?
You're doing things that go against you. Like
Yeah, but like you're
speaking. No,
learning.
I mean
That's exactly the point that I
that's
was going to make.
not necessarily true. There's a lot of people who do and still don't learn. I mean,
I think that's you can't make that assumption because the story is not over. Who am I? Are you to say that they won't come to a point of revelation tomorrow?
you're right.
Based on all of the backwards things that they've been doing for the last few years. And I'm also willing to bet that most of those people that go through those backward things will say they taught me and made me who I am.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So I don't
And
know.
that compound effect of those, right? Like you can make one poor decision and it doesn't rock the boat. But a compound effect of poor decisions, right, add up to where you can be completely off course. You look up and be like, how did I get
Hell did I
here,
get
right?
here?
Right? And that experience in and of itself is what can then, like you talk about, Bakar, set the floor for like I'm never going back to that, right? Like that becomes your floor and you grow from that point. But if you didn't have the compound effect of the poor decisions, it wouldn't have hurt as much, right? And they said that in life there are no mistakes, only lessons, right? But you'll continue to learn the lesson. You'll continue to be tested until you learn the lesson. And so once you learn that lesson, now you can grow. And some of us are just hard headed. We got to go through some stuff multiple times, experience it in different ways in order for us to recognize that, like, you know what? This ain't working, right? Like, it's showing up differently. And I'm thinking that, oh, this is, but it's the same test. And you just keep failing the test till you decide, like, all right, I'm ready to pass the test. Like, I'm
Hmm.
tired of facing this test. Let me pass it. Let me move on and let me
But
do something
you
differently.
realize, I mean, and that's all well and good and beautiful. And from an from an experiential point of view, I come across many people who slide all the way down, or maybe even just slide a little, and that becomes their new ceiling.
Absolutely.
And they tell themselves, "I can't, and I won't, and I don't know," and that's just how things is, right? And I want to address that audience as well when it comes to self esteem. I love everything that you just said, Majida and Maurice, right? That people will continue to fight back. I hope so. I trust so. I believe so. I desire for them to. Um, but there are those. There are many who are out there who are looking at their life and their circumstances and where they've gone to and accepting that's all that there is to life. There's some people who simply haven't had the exposure to know that there is even more to life, right? At least in something tangibly that they could connect with or that they can have that they've had modeled for them, right? We do have an opportunity now, to see evidence of it. But if you've never seen evidence of that in your space, right, it can be very, very difficult to connect to it. So, I mean, this question of self esteem is I think it's major. It's a really really major concept, as far as identifying what you will become, how to do it, right, and who you need to get around in order to get a taste of what's in you.
and
I don't know
and
if that makes
and,
any
and let me
sense.
speak to this real quick, because just like you mentioned that we all start off as children, right?
Hmm.
And children, in my experience, by nature, curious, inquisitive, and like they're wired to like wonder why, right? Like they just have this innate ability to. And I know from my experience, when that's nurtured,
Hmm.
like the possibilities are endless. You know what I mean? Um, right? Like my daughter, this wasn't on me, right? She saw the other night I was watching Coming to America. And so she saw on Amazon Prime, she saw the Simone Biles story, right? Now she's 6. And then we read stories about Simone Biles. She's seen some videos of Simone Biles. And so she came to me tonight and she's like, she want to watch the Simone Biles story, right? And she was like, but you got to pay for it. And so we had this whole conversation about, right, me spending the $2.99 to rent it or the $4.99 to buy it. And I'm like, she was just like, I'm sorry, you got to spend your money. I'm like, no, 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 right? This $5, and we look, I took it from Simone Biles to look, this $5, I'm gonna buy it so you can watch it anytime, and I'm not spending this $5. I'm investing it because it's helping you to learn, right, more about your craft. You're learning from somebody who's gone a little further down the path than you have yourself, right? I'm
A
like, this,
little.
this,
She
A
the
little.
best.
That's all. Just a little.
She the best.
but there's 5 things, right? Or I didn't say 5 things, but like there's different things that you can earn money. Right? She actually said that one. She was like, you can earn it, right? You can work for it. You can spend it. You can invest it. You can borrow it, right? Or you can save it, right? Like those are the 5 things that we talked about. You can give it, and so I'm like, I don't see me spending $5. Like it's worth the investment because what you learn from watching this can help you be more confident in your craft, right? And so I'm nurturing that. Like I'm giving her like no excuse. Not to say that she ain't like life ain't gonna happen to her, because one of the things that they showed in the movie was that Simone had a difficult time, or she was challenged with wondering whether it was worth her giving up her high school career to pursue gymnastics, right? She made a decision to be homeschooled in lieu of going to high school so she could have more time in the gym. And, watching that, and having a conversation with my daughter about it, it's just like, hey, it's there's some sacrifices. Like, are you going to be willing to make those sacrifices? It's not going to be easy, but I'm nurturing her and I'm putting her in an environment now to where, hey, if you want to, we're going to be in an environment that's going to allow you to be able to become whoever you want to become. But what's in you, you got to bring out, right? Like I can make sure the soil's prepared. I can make sure you got some sunshine. I can water it. But what's in that seed is up to that seed to bring out. And so that's in each and every one of us, right? You could be in, right? We've seen it. People can be from the best environments and produce poor results, and they can come from the worst environments and become the number one motivational speaker in the world, right? Like it's what's in you, and you at some point recognizing that. That's what esteem is all about. But part of esteem is having that, right? Something we learn: consider thou art a parent, the importance of thy trust. I need my daughter to trust that I have her best interest at heart, and that I'm going to cultivate and nurture whoever she wants to become. And because of that relationship, she's going to want to produce, right, the greatest that's in her, right? So shall she rise like the trees on so shall she rise like the cedar on the mountain. Her head will be seen above the trees of the forest. Like that's got to come from within her. I'm gonna do my part, but she got to do hers. And so we can't put it on somebody else to help to for us to grow. we can all grow, regardless of the soul, regardless of right. We just got to make that decision.
Cool. Cool, man. And we can wrap it up right there, Maurice, unless you got some final words.
You're muted. You're muted, bro.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking, just kind of, I guess, in summary of all of this, as we kind of talking about esteem and the different conditions that or situations that people will be in, and what encourages growth and all of that good stuff. I can't actually remember what you said, Bakar, that triggered this thought, but man is sure to find himself where he can solve his problems best. You know what I mean? That's what I was, and again, I can't think of what you said to trigger that in my mind, right? So, just there's nuggets, there's jewels. I mean, you could argue the point that this is God's territory. So from that perspective, it's all fertile ground. I don't think either one of y'all would disagree with that. You get what I'm saying? Like from that perspective, it's all fertile ground. You get what I'm saying?
Me. Yeah.
So yeah, there are no excuses not to grow. I don't know if that's what you was trying to pull out or not, Bakar. There are no excuses not to grow. Majida didn't say it that way. She's like, yo, I'm gonna grow regardless. I wouldn't say it that way, but I feel the same way. There are no excuses to grow, and we have the ability to do the most amazing things when we put our minds to it. You know what I mean? So there's no reason not to grow, and there's nothing stopping you from grow. Matter of fact, there's only, if you look around at the environment that we're in right now, there is only stimulation to grow. There is only stimulation to grow. Perfect it, get it like you want it to, mold it like you want it to, change it to fit your schedule. There's only room for that in the environment that we're in right now. So I mean, to me, from that, it's beautiful. You know what I mean? It really is beautiful. We got to talking about this. I wanted to actually lay this out because I don't know if anybody was wondering why we were talking about esteem tonight, but we got to talking about this because last week on the show, I was caught with my pants down. Basically, I got caught saying that I got a low self-esteem. I either said I have a low self-esteem or my thinking is small, one of the two. And from there, Bakar was like, "Yo, we gonna talk about that." So that's what kind of made me come this way. That's what kind of made us talk about this. But my self-esteem piece is more to do. It is in my control. I do realize that. It is totally in my control. You know what I'm saying? And being that my self-esteem is tied to my actions. I mean, it's in my control. It's in my control. I don't feel that it's out of my control. You get what I'm saying? So I don't see an issue with it. I see it as being something to work out, no different than, I'm looking out in the environment right now and I'm noticing something that's not there. So it's a blessing to have something to work on. It's a blessing to have something to work on. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like I'm dealing with it constructively. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I'll wrap up with, right?
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for your vulnerability. I think that's a beautiful way to finish it, because we didn't want to make it about you, and then you came in the end and made it about you. No, I'm kidding. It all comes full circle. This is your MC, Mastermind Coach Bobe World, Bakar Obey, with Maurice Bay, the Helpful Trucker brand, and Majida Bay, your financial conductor, to get you on the track, getting parents and professionals on the track to financial freedom. That'll do it, right? Choo-choo. Let's go.
And help parents become someone both their parents and children can be proud of.
Oh man. Well, that sounds like that's getting in the coaching. You getting into my lane a little bit. But side note, hey, let's do some wins. We didn't do any wins today, so hey, let's go out with some wins. I'll start. Well, Majida.
I was about to start. Okay.
I had a chance to meet a friend of Majida's, and she has since become an invested member in our accountability community. So I thank her for making that connection and being able to actually, lead and guide and help this young woman to find a community where she could begin to really build herself back up. So thank you for that connection. I was like, give it to me, give it to me.
As long as you take care of them, you got no problem.
Oh,
Relationships is my second value, so I don't take those lightly. When people trust me, or have certain confidence that or trust in me. Um,
oh, and I
so
acquired a
yeah,
new business this week, so that was fun.
acquired a new business.
We'll talk about that
Okay,
soon.
all right.
Maybe next time.
Wins. I don't know. I gotta work. I gotta. Maybe I'll implement that into my day. How did I win the day? Cause I just be getting done. I just get stuff done. Uh, so yeah, I got some things done today.
I think it's
Like,
important to recognize and celebrate so that hey, look, if you're not tracking, how do you know that you're growing? Right?
what gets measured gets improved. So, um, I mean, I can't. Like, okay, so because the values assessment that I took has become, kind of my focus. Well, my goal today was to, and I still got an hour to create my new 168 calendar or schedule. To schedule out, how I invest my time, and I want to invest it based on my values, right? Right. So if personal development is most important to me, and 36% of what I value is personal development, out of the course, right? So 36% of my week should be focused on me getting better. And then I think 23% is on relationships. So 20% of my time should be focused on cultivating the relationships that I have that are meaningful. So, this is part of that. But my children, watching the Simone Biles movie with my daughter, that was a win for the day. So,
There you go. There you
yeah.
go. And you know
And
that's
having a money conversation about me investing versus spending $5
I love it.
on Amazon Prime Video.
I love it. Hey, and we're doing similar work in H2G, Habit to Greatness, H2G Nation. Shout out to you guys holding me down tonight so I can do this call. And my call kept running. Maurice.
Pretty pretty huge wins, but not really.
Ooh.
Right? Not really. Again, I'm just gonna be humble with myself. Hey, it's things
You
are
don't have
getting
to be.
done. Say what?
We've established that it doesn't have to be a big win to be a win.
Well, no, it's a win. It's a win by all shots. You know what I mean? It's a win. Absolutely. I opened up an Acorns account this past week. I opened up a Vanguard account this past week. We started the policy with you. Well, I guess we started it, right? Got a chance to sit down with Brother Long a couple of, maybe a week or so ago, 10 days ago. Been really thinking, just really like been thinking on a financial wavelength over the last few weeks,
Me too.
like heavy, like really, really, really heavy, man. Lining up stuff to have the truck and everything in my name ready to go by April the 1st. You know what I'm saying? Just pushing through every day at work, keeping my eye on my bottom dollar, working out a budget, going over budgeting and stuff in my head all week, listening to family banking stuff all week. You know what I'm saying? Thinking about what I'm just all of that stuff, man. Just like totally really like focused on finances, right? Um, I haven't really done much with my YouTube channel in the last few days. But you know what, man? Like I'm getting tired of chasing the algorithm, and I'm getting tired of chasing ad dollars as well. Like when what I mean is when I look at my analytics, if my analytics is down, I'm tired of letting that affect me. You get what I'm saying? I'm tired of letting that dictate what type of videos I make as well. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like, whatever, man. Analytics is, down, views are down. And they're not, when I say they're down, they're not down. I mean, the last 48 hours, I'm still sitting on 5,000 views. So, but normally that's at about 10 or 12,000 views in the last 48 hours. So my viewership is down, but it's not trending down though. It's pretty much, on an even keel right now. But like I said, I'm not worried about that. I'm really more or less like, I'm focused on my finances for the last few weeks, to be actually true. Like I said, with the money and the truck and all that, because I just ain't even been thinking about it. But it's like I'm gonna create a video. I'm gonna create videos that's helpful. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm tired of letting the algorithm dictate what I create. That is getting old. That is really, really getting old. It's an emotional roller coaster. It really is. You know what I'm saying? And when I create a good, the public is unstable and
I'm
again,
grateful.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what I mean, when I create a video and it does
We love
well,
y'all.
yeah, absolutely. When I create a video and it does well, it's like, I feel good, but I shouldn't. You know what I'm saying? And when I create a video and it don't do well, I don't feel good, and I shouldn't. Yeah, I shouldn't. It shouldn't even be like I want to get my. It shouldn't even matter. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't even matter. You know what I mean? So, but I'm getting there though. I'm definitely getting there. I'm definitely getting there. I can feel myself getting there too. So but those more or less personal internal wins for me over the last few days.
That's good stuff.
Stack
Yeah.
them up. Stack them up.
That's the theme win.
Yeah. How about you,
Yep.
Bakar? Oh, you already said your wins. I apologize.
Yeah. Oh, but interestingly enough, I've been focusing on my finances too. As got multiple businesses that focusing on growing into 5-figure businesses in this first quarter. And I'm like, I don't know how, but I'm opening myself up to all the opportunity and all of the energy and all of the peace and the relief that comes with. Oh man, like that thing's really taking off. So I acquired another business recently, and it's a simple business, a financial business that provides tools and resources to help people really at the foundational level. So does education, but more than just the education, provides tools and resources to guide them through how to get the most out of that education. So I'm excited to dive into that because it's something that could really work really well with the accountability community we're building, because we do focus on finances at various levels. So having that foundation, and that's what we re-drill it, just foundation, belief, alignment, and intention. What's your story? In like what Majida pointed out, core values, right? All centered around core values. So nice to hear that like the things that you're doing are in alignment, and we're kind of coming together with this S.E.A.R thing, to support the accountability, encouragement, and recognition. Oh, and Maurice, I was inspired to create some certificates for my new habit builders, habit breakers, and habit masters coming in the future. So
You're muted, Maurice.
yep, he's done.
Hey. Nothing. We gonna close out. Nothing. Don't even
Yeah,
worry.
those were my wins. I mean, like I said, every day since I've started going all in, every day's been a win. Every day I've been winning, even when I'm recognizing, man, I need rest, and I was able to catch up with some friends, and it's just like the energy that's like swelling up and filling up and excited. Get to be like, oh man, hanging out with a friend just allows me to relieve that pressure valve and get back into it, clear and not overwhelmed or whelmed.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So this is the S.E.A.R podcast. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Hey, like, share, subscribe, all of the things that we're putting in place now. Fortunately, we're putting more into it each and every day, bit by bit, steady by steady. The journey is, it's a turtle race. It's a slow climb, but each day you'll see a little more come out of us. Each time we get together, a little more come out of us. And I trust that from this journey, you'll gain some inspiration to be able to make a shift in your own life, to tell your story and live your journey your way. Because this is me. To the day. Good night, y'all. And
Good night.
we'll see you in 2 weeks.